The story begins by introducing Kevin, who is currently in college. After coming back from classes, Kevin spends time skateboarding with his friend Panda. While Panda records Kevin's skateboarding tricks, Kevin notices a beautiful girl named Genesis. Suddenly, there's a commotion as someone steals Genesis's bag. At that moment, Kevin reacts quickly by chasing after the thief who took Genesis's belongings. Although the thief gets away, Kevin manages to recover the bag. Following this incident, Kevin and Genesis get to know each other, and Kevin asks for her phone number right away. The story shifts to a slaughterhouse where a man named Russo works. Shortly after, child of a gang leader named Greyhound arrives. At that moment, Greyhound claims to have received information from Gerardo and Franco about a truck loaded with 1 billion peso heading to the airport in the next 10 days. It turns out, these individuals are not regular criminals. They're part of a professional robber gang. Meanwhile, Kevin lives with his mother Anna and grandmother, where Anna supports Kevin's college expenses. Unexpectedly, corrupt police officers force Anna to hand over the drug money under the threat of arrest. It turns out, to provide for her family, Anna reluctantly turns to drug dealing. After that, all her savings, including money for Kevin's education, are seized. Kevin's father's whereabouts are unknown, but Anna hopes Kevin won't follow his path. On the other hand, Panda's parents run a gaming business, where Panda has a crush on a girl who loves wall painting, but his slightly unusual father often teases him. That night, Kevin and Panda attend Genesis's fancy birthday party at a grand hotel. Kevin, who has feelings for Genesis, asks her to dance, but suddenly, Genesis's boyfriend named Ignacio shows up and punches Kevin in the face. After that, Genesis's mother steps in, tends to Kevin's injured lip, and sternly warns him to stay away from her daughter. However, Kevin ignores the warning. Meanwhile, airport officer Gerardo faces serious consequences for requesting money in advance for the planned robbery. Greyhound's father, the gang leader, is furious when he learns that Gerardo dared to ask for a share of the stolen money before the robbery even happens. After that, he kills Gerardo with a crowbar and gets rid of his body in a meat grinder. The following day, Genesis and Kevin hang out together at a new spot and officially become a couple. Meanwhile, Panda anxiously waits for his friend, who arrives late because he's smitten with love. At the same time, Russo and Greyhound are also there. While Kevin waits for Panda to buy food, he accidentally scratches Greyhound's car while skateboarding. Upset by this, the gangsters take his skateboard, and Russo even pulls out a gun. Determined to keep his skateboard, Kevin secretly climbs onto their car. After seeing his friend flee, Panda quickly follows him. When they reach the gang's hideout, Kevin climbs up to a window, surprising Panda. However, Panda couldn't join him inside, so he stays outside to watch. While Kevin retrieves his skateboard, he accidentally finds money and a small book containing plans for a robbery worth 1 billion pesos. Kevin immediately takes the book but has to hide when the gang boss and his men come to discuss their plans. Later, Kevin discovers that the money truck will come to the airport during the Pampilla festival to refill ATMs. In the book, he finds examples of ID cards that could get him past security, along with the code to enter the airport. When it's safe, Kevin quickly leaves the slaughterhouse. Back at home, Kevin saw his mother, Anna, giving her jewelry to a drug dealer. Even though Kevin offered to use the money he found, Anna refused it, worried about Kevin becoming a thief. At the same time, Greyhound couldn't find his notebook that suddenly disappeared along with Kevin's skateboard. Meanwhile, Kevin held the notebook with robbery plans, making him think about becoming a robber, especially since the notebook had the code to enter the hangar. After that, Kevin wrote "unknown, therefore unbeaten" in his room. It's revealed that Kevin's father named Pedro was in jail. Knowing that his father is a former robber, Kevin asked for his help to meet Pantera, despite his father's warning about the risk of jail, but Kevin's intentions were firm. The next day, Kevin introduced Panda to Pantera, his father's former professional robber friend. Kevin suggested working together to steal 1 billion pesos from the airport. At the same time, Greyhound found CCTV footage showing Kevin taking his notebook. While they were at their usual meeting spot, Kevin saw Greyhound looking for him and noticed the small book being put into Genesis's bag. Instead of confronting her, Kevin ran away when Greyhound saw him. After successfully escaping, Kevin got back his book, but Genesis was upset because Kevin had lied. He said he fought with the man, but Genesis had already read his book. Kevin decided not to tell Genesis about his robbery plan and asked her to trust him instead. Shortly after, while relaxing at Panda's parents' game zone, a woman named Mystica approached them, asking to hide her bag. It turns out, Mystica was a talented robber who was skilled in disguise and operated alone. When two police officers came looking for her, Mystica asked Panda and Kevin to watch her bag. Curious about what was inside, they found a gun and a fortune-telling card with the message, Wheel of Fortune. On the other hand, Greyhound went to a car junkyard to check on the car he had ordered from an old man named Lionel. He planned to come back later to pick it up after Lionel had prepared all the necessary registration and documents. On the other hand, Pantera refused to Kevin's request at first, but Kevin kept insisting, especially after he learned about his father's sacrifices so Pantera could live freely. Pantera eventually agreed when he heard about Kevin's mother being forced into drug dealing to support the family. Needing more people and weapons, Panda suggested recruiting Mystica. When they went to her apartment, Mystica already knew Pantera because of his reputation as a professional thief. Kevin then explained their reason for inviting Mystica. At first, Mystica hesitated because she didn't trust men, but she was surprised to hear about the planned 1 billion peso heist. After that, Kevin then asked Mystica to consult her fortune-telling card, saying he would leave if it indicated not to proceed. Shortly after, the card showed a smiling sunrise, which made Mystica reveal her collection of heavy weapons. As a professional thief, Pantera shared his knowledge about maintaining a thief's principle of guarding personal secrets, like Mystica hiding her arm tattoos. Pantera also didn't like Kevin wearing an earring. Afterward, Kevin explained the plan for intercepting the truck carrying 1 billion pesos from the central bank to Santiago Airport. They aimed to intercept the truck at Hangar 19 during its 20-minute refueling stop before it continued northward. Their plan involved using their IDs and access code to redirect the truck to Hangar 18, bypassing security. Upon the truck arrival, they planned to ambush the officers carrying the money and escape through the east door. After that, they had a tight 3-minute window before the police intervened and Kevin had arranged for his van to play a role in the plan. Despite being new to firearms, Kevin received training to handle a weapon properly. The crew also equipped themselves with support gear, including spikes to slow down police pursuit, and Panda made masks for disguise. Meanwhile, Ignacio tried to win over Genesis's materialistic mother with gifts to get permission for Genesis to vacation with him in New Zealand. However, Genesis's feelings remained with Kevin. After getting the information, Greyhound showed up at Panda's store while he was making an access card for the airport. Then Greyhound showed a photo of Kevin on his phone, which made Panda very scared. Panda denied knowing Kevin, and once Greyhound left, Panda tried to reach out to Kevin and Genesis in a hurry. Both were worried about Kevin's safety, especially from Greyhound. Meanwhile, Kevin had gone to Lionel's car workshop, supposedly to pick up his uncle's ordered van. When Anna got back home, she encountered a man holding a gun. At the same time, Panda arrived, looking for Kevin. Anna first thought the man was a debt collector from her drug dealings, but he was actually searching for Kevin. Shortly after Greyhound left, Panda entered the house to free Anna and Kevin's grandmother. Upon arriving at the workshop, Greyhound told Lionel to leave and locked the gate, signaling their intention to confront Kevin. After that, Kevin endured serious injuries, ignoring the notebook he dropped. As Kevin faced possible harm, Pantera intervened, hitting Greyhound from behind. Pantera was furious to learn that Kevin had taken their robbery plan from the gangster butcher. Suddenly, Greyhound fired a gun, but Pantera dodged it and fought back, injuring Greyhound. Realizing the danger, especially with Greyhound's father being a gang leader, Pantera told Kevin to take his van while he dealt with the situation. Meanwhile, Genesis rejected Ignacio's vacation offer, choosing instead to escape with Kevin, who arrived in a car. Despite knowing about Kevin's interest in robbery, Genesis decided to go with him and they kissed afterward. On the other hand, Pantera contacted the gang leader, informing him about his son's kidnapping and the demand to cancel their robbery plan. Meanwhile, Kevin accompanied Genesis to their hideout, as she wanted to join their scheme. Not long after, the group of thieves went to the international airport in Chile, feeling nervous during security checks. Luckily, their data matched, allowing them entry. Afterward, Kevin entered the access code for Hangar 18, while wearing masks and carrying weapons. Unfortunately, they forcefully entered Hangar 19, which catching the attention of CCTV operators who quickly alerted the police. With just 3 minutes, Kevin and his team carried out their plan, seizing the money carriers. Upon seeing the money, Pantera estimated its value to be more than 1 billion pesos. Unexpectedly, a security guard stopped them, even shooting at Panda. Kevin was devastated to see his closest friend in danger, especially since they both dreamed of becoming rich. Another airport officer, Franco, intervened aggressively, unaware that Kevin was behind the heist, known as the Baby Bandito. Surprisingly, Panda emerged unharmed after the bullet hit his bulletproof vest. After overpowering the officer, the team quickly escaped with the money. However, a problem with their vehicle forced them to push it initially. Meanwhile, the police chased them, leading to a fierce shootout. At that moment, Mystica suffered a minor injury to her hand from a grazing bullet. To stop the pursuing police, the robbers successfully used tire spikes. In the end, their plan ended in success, leading to joyous celebrations from Kevin and his crew. Upon reaching a specific location, they swapped their vehicle with a new van they had arranged beforehand. To remove any evidence, they burned everything, including their clothes, masks, and the old vehicle. Upon returning to their headquarters, they carefully counted their loot. On the other hand, the people in Chile were shocked by the daring robbery, which yielded a total of 6 billion pesos at Santiago Airport. The prosecutor overseeing the case concluded that it was carried out by a highly skilled and organized group. During discussions with the chief of police, named Bozo, it was revealed that the amount transported in the vehicle was 6 times larger due to the festival day. Upon hearing this, the prosecutor suspected the presence of someone on the inside who provided crucial information to the gang. At the same time, a thorough investigation was deemed necessary, involving all airport staff, examining their backgrounds, criminal records, and even their usual breakfast spots. Later, Franco secretly contacted Russo about the robbery, believing that Greyhound was working with him to provide details about the heist. The gang boss named Amador suspected that another criminal group had taken over his robbery plan and also kidnapped his son. However, due to their lack of experience, Amador believed that the perpetrators would likely be caught once they started spending the stolen money. Meanwhile, on an inhabited hill close to where Pantera's relatives lived, they buried most of their stolen money. After that, they all agreed not to tell anyone about this place, stressing the importance of only retrieving it when it was safe. Pantera reminded them to be careful, warning against attracting attention after their newfound riches. Mystica then urged them all to hold hands as a symbol of the agreement to mutually protect and safeguard the money until the time was right. Later that evening, Lionel shared with Russo his decision to leave Greyhound under the young man's care. By the next morning, they had gotten rid of all evidence except for one notebook found by Lionel. To keep things secret, Russo quickly got rid of the notebook. Meanwhile, a man watched news reports about the 6 billion peso robbery at Santiago Airport. CCTV footage of the heist was shown, prompting Mystica to hide a bag of money in her home as a precaution. This man turned out to be Mystica's boyfriend named Enzo. Seeing masks similar to those worn by the robbers, Mystica told Enzo to leave and gather his things. Accompanied by Genesis and Pantera, Kevin hurriedly explained to Anna the urgent need to gather their things as they were being chased by the police. At that moment, Anna was shocked to learn about Kevin's involvement in the highly publicized robbery. At the same time, Marco, the drug dealer, showed up to collect the money owed to him. Tensions rose as guns were drawn, leading to Pantera handing over the money to Marco with the condition of keeping their location secret. Meanwhile, Panda returned home with a bag of stolen money, planning to share it with his father. Quietly, Pantera sneaked into Marco's place, carrying a bag and Kevin's skateboard. Not long after, Russo located Greyhound's whereabouts using his cell phone signal. He then went to the same house Pantera had visited earlier. After a phone call, Russo found the bag of money and Greyhound's phone. When Marco arrived, Russo quickly dealt with him and his 3 henchmen. With the money and Kevin's skateboard, Russo executed his plan and left, leaving Pantera confident that his plan had worked. On the other hand, Amador found Greyhound dead in a car. Overwhelmed with sorrow, he instructed Russo to capture the person responsible for his son's death. Meanwhile, Pantera, at his hideout, stumbled upon a message from Genesis to Kevin, expressing a desire to meet soon. However, Kevin was asleep and missed the message. Worried it could endanger the team, Pantera got rid of Kevin's phone card. At the same time, an emotional Russo fired his gun into the air, while Genesis dug up the money and took one bag without Kevin's or the team's knowledge. During Franco's interrogation by the police, he recounted his version of the robbery. However, his claims of being threatened and attacked, despite being on his knees and crying, were doubted by a prosecutor named Soraya. She questioned his story because it didn't match with the CCTV footage. Under pressure, Franco admitted that he had been offered bribes by certain people, but he insisted they were not involved in the robbery itself. He claimed that he didn't know who the actual robbers were. Suddenly, the lights in the police station went out, and an unknown woman entered. Later, Soraya and Bozo found Franco dead in a pool of blood. On the other hand, Anna strongly objected to Kevin leaving their safe place. Despite her resistance, Kevin persisted, eventually convincing his grandmother to reveal the hidden key in a pill container. When Kevin met Genesis again, he was surprised to see her with their share of the stolen money. At that moment, Genesis argued they needed the money to escape and hide. But Kevin refused, unwilling to leave his family and friends, including Panda and others. However, Genesis said they weren't betraying anyone, just taking precautions until it was safe to come back, suggesting Kevin could reunite with his family later. Following Genesis's suggestion, Kevin arranged for several bundles of money to be sent to his mother. At the same time, Panda's relationship with his girlfriend grew stronger, and she returned his affection. On the other hand, the police struggled to identify the woman suspected of Franco's murder. At the same time, the woman named Herring stitched up Greyhound's wounds before Amador buried him. Meanwhile, Amador's daughter named Natalia sought answers about Greyhound's fate. However, Amador remained silent, then instructed Herring to find the culprit. Moreover, Amador delivered an important message to his granddaughter, who was revealed to be Natalia's child. It was revealed that Russo, Natalia's husband, is Amador's son-in-law. Meanwhile, Anna informed Pantera that Kevin had left for an undisclosed location. Sometime later, Russo went to a bar to find the owner of the skateboard and coincidentally met Panda's drunk father. Using intimidation, Russo showed his gun to make Panda's father tell him the truth. Upon seeing Kevin and Genesis near his house, Panda quickly followed them. It turns out, Kevin wanted to retrieve his passport. At the same time, Russo was heading to their house as well, and Genesis honked the car horn as danger was approaching. Upon realizing everything, Panda expressed his disappointment, scolding Kevin for planning to leave secretly and ignoring their friendship. After that, they seeking safety on the roof when Russo forcibly entered their house. At the same time, Soraya instructed the police to closely watch airports and borders, expecting the criminals to try to escape abroad. Not long after, to get past airport security, Kevin and Genesis came up with a clever plan. Genesis then hid the money on herself, pretending to be pregnant. After Genesis passed the passport check, it was Kevin's turn. When asked about his destination, Kevin said he was going to Italy. At the same time, feeling betrayed, Panda was upset, calling Kevin and Genesis traitors before telling Pantera. On the other hand, after a romantic moment with her boyfriend, Mystica found her money scattered. Returning to Kevin and Genesis, there was tension as Genesis went through the metal detector. Suddenly, the alarm briefly went off, but after removing her necklace, Genesis managed to pass, and they smiled as they could board the plane. When living in Rome, Italy, Kevin and Genesis lived a luxurious life using the money from their robberies. Shortly after, their fancy lifestyle attracted attention on social media, where Panda felt jealous and angry when he saw their posts online. Anna also saw the updates, but Pantera advised her not to contact them for safety reasons, and Pantera reassured Anna that Kevin was safe abroad. On the other hand, Mystica felt tricked by Enzo, who ran away with her hidden money. Meanwhile, the authorities found new information about the murder of Lionel, the owner of a car parts store linked to a major robbery. Additionally, Bozo discovered CCTV footage showing a young man with a skateboard buying metal shears used to cut the airport gate. After that, Bozo went to the skate park hoping to find more clues. While there, someone was seen checking out Kevin's and Genesis's social media profiles. While shopping for luxury clothing, Kevin and Genesis met a couple who claimed to be from Chile. The man named Angel and his partner invited them to a party. At that moment, Angel said he was a tourism entrepreneur, while Kevin claimed to own a workshop for cars and motorcycles. The next day, Kevin showed his social media feed, where Genesis's mother had posted many times, looking for her daughter. Feeling the urgency, Genesis called her mother to assure her that she was safe and had separated from Kevin. Meanwhile, Panda was determined not to be outdone by his friend. He decided to take his girlfriend, Nydia, to a fancy restaurant. Despite trying to impress her with a bag of money, like Kevin did, Nydia remained doubtful, making Panda upset. Unexpectedly, Russo and his wife were also at the same restaurant. Panda then quickly left, leaving his bag with Nydia, and Russo followed him. In another place, a woman reported about Enzo's extravagant spending at a nightclub, accompanied by many women. Shortly after, Mystica stepped in to scold him, and when she left, it was Herring's turn and her henchmen to kidnap Enzo, where Mystica saw Enzo being taken away. After running for a while, Panda came to Pantera's house for help. When about to leave, suddenly Russo fired a shot. Then Pantera told Panda to flee first because Pantera himself intended to steal a car, but Russo shot first and dragged him away. When Panda met Mystica, he told her about Pantera and Kevin leaving with Genesis. He also revealed Greyhound's tragic death, the son of a gangster butcher, before the robbery. Mystica, upset by the late news, immediately asked Panda to leave. Meanwhile, Pantera was captured and brought to the slaughterhouse, where Amador had already captured Enzo. Not knowing the man, Pantera claimed innocence, saying he had no connection to the robbery gang. But when Enzo was held at gunpoint, he admitted that Mystica had given him money and that she lived in a warehouse. After that, the gangsters hurried to Mystica's place. In the confrontation that followed, Mystica fatally injured one of the gang members with a knife, but Herring quickly stopped her with a stun gun. On the other hand, the police began to find new clues about the glamorous life of Kevin in Italy, with his girlfriend named Genesis. Meanwhile, Panda grew furious over Nydia after she running off with his money and reported the theft to the police after taking some of the money. At the same time, Genesis, alarmed by a positive pregnancy test, questioned her relationship with Kevin. After seeing Kevin and Genesis's romantic posts online, Soraya and Bozo met with Genesis's parents. Despite initial concerns about Kevin's influence, they sensed their daughter's genuine happiness. However, Genesis was linked to the airport robbery. Dismissing the accusations, her parents opted to stay silent until accompanied by a lawyer. Not long after, Panda intended to confront Nydia, but he grew suspicious from the people around him. Panda then pretended to tie his shoelace, and he immediately ran away, chased by an unknown figure. Luckily, he managed to escape after boarding the bus. Meanwhile, the relationship between Genesis and Kevin began to worsen after her pregnancy test results stated Genesis was pregnant. Suddenly, masked individuals abducted Genesis. When taken to a location, the perpetrators already knew that Genesis and Kevin were the airport robbers being hunted by the Chilean police. Shortly after, Kevin was shocked to see a picture of Genesis held captive. The kidnappers contacted Kevin and threatened to harm Genesis unless he handed over all his stolen money. In the end, Kevin had no choice, so he gathered all his money to hand over part of it to the center. Meanwhile, Bozo went to Panda's father's house looking for Panda, suspected in the robbery. At that moment, Panda's father denied his son's involvement and showed no trust in the authorities, refusing to help Bozo with his investigation. When Panda returned home, his father closed the shop immediately. Despite being pressured, Panda avoided explaining why the police were looking for him. After that, his father said he would actually praise Panda if he had resorted to stealing. Not long after, Panda returned home with expensive drinks for his father. It turned out that before the drinks were given, Panda had mixed them with drugs. As a result, his father immediately became intoxicated. On the other hand, Pantera was pressured to reveal information and witnessed Herring fatally shoot Enzo. Seeing her partner's death, Mystica became enraged and she spotted a meat hook nearby. When they were about to be eliminated, Mystica and Pantera fought back. But Pantera got shot in the leg during the struggle. Before escaping, there was a shootout with Russo, who was injured by gunfire. After that, Russo sought refuge in the slaughterhouse and shot Herring dead to protect his secrets. Afterward, Russo went home to get medical help. Meanwhile, Kevin faced the kidnappers, including Genesis. After being warned with a shot, Kevin handed over all the money from his robbery to them. But Kevin didn't see Genesis being taken by them. It turned out the perpetrator was Angel, whom Kevin met with Genesis before. Shortly after, Genesis was eventually released, but she looked disheveled. Feeling regretful about their actions leading to sorrow and trouble, Genesis contacted her mother again. However, to avoid legal trouble, cooperating with the authorities was necessary for Genesis. Upon arriving at a safe location, Mystica helped Pantera removing the bullet from his leg. There it was finally revealed that Kevin was Pantera's son. Shortly after, they intended to take the money, but Mystica and Pantera were shocked after found out that all the money had been taken by someone. After that, Mystica was sure the culprit was either Kevin or Panda. At the same time, after recovering, Russo received a warning from Amador, after he learned that Russo had destroyed Greyhound's laptop to retrieve its hard drive. On the other hand, Panda's father was found dead in his home by the police. The investigation process was carried out, especially fingerprinting the bottle of drink found there. Not long after, Panda caught Nydia while she was alone. Meanwhile, Kevin was happy to see Genesis again, but his joy was short-lived as Interpol officers arrested him. His arrest made headlines, but the police still didn't know where the rest of the stolen money was. At the same time, while watching this news, Amador now knows who the perpetrator was who thwarted his robbery plan. Upon returning to Chile from Italy, Kevin was met by a crowd of media crews. The massive robbery had made headlines worldwide, with many viewing the mastermind as immature. At the same time, Anna could only cry as she saw her son taken into custody by the police. During interrogation by prosecutors and police officers, Kevin saw Genesis's confession that she had been forced to participate in this robbery, and Kevin was the one who forced her to flee to Italy. After that, the prosecutors wanted details about Kevin's partners in crime and where the rest of the stolen money was hidden. On the other hand, Mystica sought safety at a bar, while Panda hid in his junkyard. Meanwhile, Pantera decided to work at a gas station. With none of his partners caught, Kevin was threatened with being held accountable for all his actions alone, with the threat of decades in prison. If he ever got out, Kevin could only breathe free air after his child with Genesis graduated from high school. In the end, Kevin finally confessed that he stole the robbery plan from the Butcher Group. Several months later, Genesis's pregnancy became more noticeable. She struggled with regret for reporting Kevin. Meanwhile, in prison, Kevin endured taunts from other inmates, earning the nickname Baby Bandit. Luckily, he shared a cell with Pedro, who had some influence among prisoners, offering Kevin some protection. At that moment, his fancy Italian shoes, once a symbol of brief success, now reminded him of lost wealth and betrayed friends, leaving him feeling guilty towards Pantera and the rest of the gang. Not long after, Mystica followed Anna as she went to see Kevin in prison. During their meeting, Kevin told Anna that he didn't have enough money to get a good lawyer, and Genesis seemed to have abandoned him. Determined as a mother, Anna promised to try everything to get him out of jail. The police knew about the butcher boss mentioned by Kevin, known as Amador, but they couldn't move quickly because of his strong reputation and his involvement as a sponsor in the Youth Football League. They needed solid proof to arrest him. At the same time, Pablo, Amador's grandson, seemed eager to get involved in the family's illegal activities. On the other hand, Bozo focused on following Russo as he left his house, and Russo seemed to notice that he was being followed. Bozo left his gun and phone in his car, informing the police headquarters of his whereabouts. After that, he continued to follow Russo until they reached a public bathhouse, which turned out to be a cover for Russo's illegal activities. On another occasion, Genesis went to the prison to see Kevin, where Kevin expressed his disappointment about Genesis reporting him to the authorities. Genesis explained her reasons, saying she didn't want to have their child while Kevin was in jail. After that, Kevin understood her point of view and couldn't blame the mother of his child. According to legal rules, Kevin was allowed to temporarily leave prison to witness the birth of his child, as long as he stayed out of trouble. Meanwhile, Russo woke up suddenly, discovering that he had Bozo's police badge. Panicking, he fired shots, but the police team arrived just in time, leading to Russo's arrest. After that, Soraya showed Natalia the CCTV footage of Russo in bed with Greyhound. To avoid legal trouble, Natalia had to cooperate with the authorities. Furious about her husband's behavior, Natalia handed over a flash drive with evidence of Russo's crimes, even though she was under pressure. Not long after, Russo was in jail with Kevin. While Kevin had been adjusting to prison life, Russo's presence threatened to cause new problems. Pedro then warned Russo sternly not to harm Kevin, reminding him of a father's protective instinct. To protect himself, Kevin was given a sharp weapon by Pedro. However, tragedy struck when Kevin woke up to find his father dead. Overwhelmed with sadness and anger, Kevin directed his anger towards Russo. At the same time, Genesis started going into labor. That day, Kevin initially planned to seek revenge for his father's death, but he changed his mind upon hearing about Genesis's upcoming childbirth. After that, Kevin was taken to the hospital with tight security. At the same time, Mystica, disguised as a nurse, tried to convince the officers to remove Kevin's handcuffs, but they refused. It turns out, Mystica had the ambition to regain the stolen money that was her share after helping Kevin. After that, inside the room, Kevin watched his newborn child from afar. On the way back to prison, Kevin managed to escape, surprising the public. At the same time, Pantera left immediately upon hearing about Kevin's escape. The scene then showing Kevin's past, including a police raid on his father during high school. Since then, Kevin and Panda had become close friends, with Kevin seeing Panda as a younger brother. Both coming from similar poor backgrounds, Kevin wanted to treat Panda to an airplane ride. While together, they shared bread on an old car, enjoying each other's company. In the present, Panda startled Kevin by pointing a gun at him. But then Panda returned to his usual self and jokingly used bolt cutters to remove Kevin's handcuffs before they hugged. Meanwhile, Soraya continued to pressure Genesis to reveal Kevin's location. At the same time, Anna visited to see her grandchild. But Soraya cautioned Anna about the risk of imprisonment if her involvement in Kevin's escape was discovered. Elsewhere, Pablo appeared serious after learning from his grandfather that he had ordered his men to find Kevin. Feeling destined to follow his family's criminal path, Pablo expressed his willingness to help his grandfather. On the other hand, Kevin finally apologized to Panda for leaving their group, and Panda forgave him, choosing to move past their previous issues. Kevin, now with no money left, offered Panda 2 bundles of money and asking about Panda's plans for the funds and if he had recovered the rest of the buried money. After that, with the surveillance cameras around, Panda watched Kevin leave with a solemn expression. At the hospital, Genesis was informed by a nurse about someone waiting for her in the basement, who turned out to be Kevin. At 7 p.m., Kevin proposed to take Genesis and their child away, planning to borrow some money from Panda for their escape. Fueled by their love and concern for their child, Genesis agreed to the plan. However, unbeknownst to Kevin, Soraya observed their meeting. Meanwhile, Anna was surprised by Pantera's sudden appearance. It was revealed that they had a secret relationship in the past, as Pantera was Kevin's biological father. Nearby, an unknown individual watched them. Pantera then admitted his mistake in leaving Anna and Kevin. Suddenly, Mystica intervened, suggesting they find Kevin to reclaim her share or prevent any potential threats against him. Despite not knowing Kevin's exact whereabouts, Anna had a feeling about his hiding place. On a different note, Kevin's friend gave him a panda toy meant for Kevin's child. Even Panda offered to lend Kevin money for his plan to leave with Genesis and their baby. Suddenly, Pablo showed up, recognized by Panda as a gaming buddy, but Kevin began to feel suspicious. That's when Panda's true colors emerged. Panda then sent a message to Natalia, pretending to be Kevin, claiming to have Pablo captive. This led Amador to rally his men to free his grandson. Meanwhile, Genesis was getting ready to leave, expecting Kevin's arrival. Later, Panda was seen opening a trunk to get the money he lent Kevin. Suddenly, Anna, Pantera, and Mystica appeared. Upon seeing this, Mystica was surprised to find out that the bundles of money were just ordinary paper and accusing Kevin of tricking her. Shortly after, tensions rose when Amador and his group showed up. At that moment, Pantera confessed that he was the one who shot Greyhound and Amador demanded him to hand over Pablo. At the same time, using a code from his phone, Panda detonated his money bag. After that, Pantera was seen fought Amador, followed with exchanging gunfire. Meanwhile, Mystica, on top of a car, took down the gang members one by one. Eventually, Pablo was shot by his grandfather's henchmen. After that, Panda chose to flee from the scene with Pablo, while Anna kept Kevin in the car. Unfortunately, Pantera was powerless and eventually killed after Amador's remaining henchmen shot him. Kevin then apologized to his biological father and fled with Mystica. Leaving, Soraya witnessed this bloody battle. Not long after, it shows Kevin's return to his old life as a pickpocket, accompanied by his skateboard, while Genesis adjusts to life as a single mother, taking care of her child. At the same time, Panda faces imprisonment after being found guilty of killing his father, where he struggles with disturbing nightmares and sharing a cell with Russo. On the other hand, Natalia and Pablo inherit Amador's criminal business, continuing his legacy, while Mystica returns to her solitary existence. In the end, Kevin lives in Rome, Italy, with the mystery of his hidden money still unsolved. And with that, the movie comes to an end. Moral lesson from the story: if you plan to rob a truck full of money, make sure to wear comfortable shoes, because running away from the police in fancy Italian shoes is like trying to escape a cheetah in high heels.